Hey guys. So Christmas makes us think about tradition and community. And we have our families around us and we can be ourselves. We can share rituals and stories about family members that are long gone or our heritage and how we all came to be here. Even though the holidays can be stressful, I think for most of us, it is a time to relax and to be with the people that we know and trust. So I have spent some time pondering the importance of trust in communities this week. As you know, I live in Seattle, and the trust factor here is very low. I used to live in a beautiful neighborhood with these lovely historic homes, but I would see this black guy wandering around my apartment at 2 a.m. on some nights, and I've seen things like kill cops spray painted nearby. And we all saw this and we knew it was going on, but just pretended like we felt safe and like we trusted one another. No one really communicates with each other here unless they really have to. And I am suspicious of basically every person that I meet. And I also felt this way in New York and Los Angeles. There was no trust or understanding or commonality with nearly anyone that I came into casual contact with throughout the day. So why is this? Earlier this month, I discussed city life with you and the issues, interpersonal and otherwise, that arise from this living environment. And although mere proximity to densely populated areas contributes to some of these problems, I am convinced that the complete lack of social cohesion in American cities and many towns is largely due to multiculturalism and crime in minority communities. We have lost the sense of small community that formerly represented most of the nation, and in these communities there was near complete value conformity, as these people likely shared the same religion, the same devotion to the nuclear family, the same work ethic, and the same American identity as a whole. So there was also a high trust factor in these communities. We have all heard some old person say they used to live in a town where they never locked their doors. So I looked up 2016 safest towns in America to see if this was still the case, as I suspected that it would be. So the safest town in America is Lewisboro Town, New York, and this town is 95% white, with half of all households having children and 3/4 being married couples that are living together. And single female householders represent around 7% of all households. Wayland, Massachusetts was number 2. It is 87% white, 41% of households have kids, and nearly 3/4 are married couples living together. Again, single female householders ranked at around 7% of all households. The demographic breakdown was similar for the vast majority of this list, which I've linked below. So for comparison, let's look at some of the most dangerous small towns in America. Lake City, Georgia ranks near the top of the list, which is 51% white. Around a third of the households have children, less than half are married couples, and around 17% are single female head of the household. Lumberton, North Carolina also ranks high on the list, and that is 49% white, with 32% of the households having children, 39% are married couples, and 23% are single females as the householder. So it seems that the data across all the towns listed was pretty consistent. Most are extremely racially diverse and have a white population considerably lower than the 63%, which is the percentage of whites nationally. They typically have fewer married households, have fewer children living in the household, and they seem to consistently have disproportionate numbers of single childless women as a percentage of households. These were inverse findings, as the towns that were safest almost exclusively had white populations above 90%, Black populations below 5%, and little other racial diversity. They also had over half of households with children, and a small percentage, usually under 7%, of childless women acting as head of the household. Now, why do these communities have less crime? Part of it, of course, is that Black people commit a disproportionate amount of crime, as do Hispanics. But a contributing factor, and part of the reason that the crime cannot be contained, has got to be because of the low trust factor in these communities. And there is low trust because there are too many groups of people trying to coexist that have warring identities, ideologies, and religions and cultures and ways of life. And if your identity is defined by one of these things, especially your ethnicity, you will always value that above Americanism. Further, the nuclear family is broken in these communities, so there is no way to effectively band together against community crime or create cohesive social order. So these people, they really have nothing in common. And for communities to work, there has to be a shared sense of identity. People often say that we're a nation of immigrants. First of all, we were originally a nation of settlers, so this is not true. But we are a nation that has had tremendous contribution from immigrants, so it is essential to recognize that most of these contributions came to be because a disenfranchised individual sought a new life in America due to the lack of opportunity in his or her home country. Then they developed or honed a skill that was valuable, then assimilated as much as possible and appreciated the opportunities that America had offered them. So they gave back. Am I asking immigrants to abandon their cultural heritage? Not their food culture, but if you choose to live in this country and you have deeply held values that run contrary to the American spirit, you should abandon those values, or you should get out of our country. This is really where we've gone wrong. In our moral relativism, we lost the ability to judge the shitty elements of other cultures. They became as good and as valuable as our own, which they are not. So because we have marginalized our own vastly superior culture, we've allowed the negative aspects of alien cultures to creep into ours and to become part of our shared identity. When we allow immigrants to reject assimilation in favor of practicing their own dysfunctional culture in U.S. enclaves, we give them a piece of our heritage. We give them a piece of our land. We give them a stake in our future. Multiculturalism doesn't just fracture individual towns and cities and make them undesirable places to live. It will fracture us as a whole, as a nation, if we do not stand firm on what being an American means and what it requires, and demand that immigrants assimilate completely if they are going to be lucky enough to become citizens. As far as dealing with crime in our Native minority communities, this must begin with personal accountability, and it seems that many Southern communities have created environments where culture is valued above race, and there's a genuine sense of cohesion. But if racial unrest emerges, even periodically in cities, as I expect it to in the coming months and years, people will self-segregate, as they always do, and the opportunity here will be lost. So let me know what you think in the comments section. Is a multicultural society that is cohesive and has a high trust factor, is that even possible? And even if assimilation became integral again for an immigrant's success, how do we deal with the problem of crime and low trust between the Black and white community? So thank you for watching and Merry Christmas. If you're in the giving spirit, I have just started using Bitcoin. I also am on Patreon and have fan funding. So any donations are greatly appreciated. It helps me do this full time. And I've linked all that information below. So thank you, and I will see you soon. Bye.